I'm talking to the people who look like me.
All right, Shalom Mashbaka Yasha here again. First off, Kalaloya Mahawad, Tazwami Hawa, Bashama Mashak Shai, Bashama Kadash, double honesty as GMS I learned this truth from. Peace and citations of brothers out there doing the work in truth and sincerity. All right, this one, boy, I tell you, it's this debate going on. You got this guy, what's his name? Dane Calloway. Dane Calloway. They're, basically saying that black people were already over here before, that there was basically no slave trade. That black people were already over here. And in a way, they're kind of right, because, God was over here, right? God and Reuben and Issachar and all of them guys, they were already over here. And they were, they were dark-skinned back then anyway. So, I don't know if that's what they're basically trying to say, that those guys were here and we are those guys. But we know that that's garbage, because the scriptures tell us that we were transported over here via ships. All right, that's Deuteronomy 28 and 68. So I'm going to let this play, and I'm going to comment while she's talking, because she is gone, man. Like, ooh. This is a prime example of the Lord depriving her of wisdom, right?
To the people who look like me, because I'm tired of these comments like this, and I'm gonna go ahead and address it, because I just reposted a video of the news in London of them telling the entire world that the African American people are not African American, they're not black, and they're literally over there laughing at us because we are the Aboriginal people. There was no coming over on no goddamn ships. If you even think about the infrastructure of ships back then and how small they were in comparison to now, and the fact that they lose half of their cargo on the trip, there's no way that they got that many people who look like us over here. We are the
Yeah, so that right there is complete friggin' garbage. I posted something just the other day about Napoleon's flagship. He had a flagship called the General, right? And the French flag that flew on that flagship was so big, it was the size of a friggin' tennis court. That's how big it was. So those ships were massive. You had Spanish galleons that were massive size ships. All right, so that's a lie. And I'll show this once. I'll show it once that this is done.
Original people from here. Just say that you don't know. Stop leaving comments like this and open your freaking mind to the fact that somebody who set up a system that was not for you lied to you about you. But you already knew that. But you only think of it the way that...
Yeah, she's right. The system set up to lie to you about who you are. That we are Israelites. We're not black. We're not African American. We're not Jamaican, Haitian, Puerto Rican, Colombian, Nicaraguan, Haitian. We're not those things. We are Israelites. So she's right about that. We're not Cherokee or Blackfoot or Pequot, none of that.
They told you it is. Stop being committed to the lie. Open your mind to the fact that there is another possibility. Because if you don't open your mind to the fact that there's another possibility, you will remain stuck. You will remain stuck. I'm sitting on the internet trying to help some of y'all. I'm literally sitting here doing videos throughout my day while I'm working 2 jobs and I'm doing this and I'm doing that because I'm trying to help our people. And then I keep getting comments like this of people who are just misinformed, and I don't blame y'all. But sitting here and defending a system that was not set up for you and not acknowledging the fact that you have been lied to in multiple different aspects, including your history, not acknowledging that is...
That's rich, because she just said she's working 2 jobs. I mean, what do you think supports this system? It's your labor that supports the system, right? You work, give over your hard-earned, your body, your time, all right, to get fiat currency that's literally worthless, and from it you pay taxes. You buy food with that money, you pay taxes on that. You have a car, you're paying taxes on that every year in the form of your car tags. You drive on the road, you have to pay taxes on that in the form of tolls. All of that money, all of that revenue goes towards feeding the beast. So she's helping the system more than anybody else. Plus, she's pushing this stupid narrative that further confuses Jake, so he doesn't know who the hell he is.
Crazy, and that's what's going to keep you stuck. Their system is working, and you're a product of their system. Do better. Do some research. Pick up a book. Look it up for yourself. Don't believe me? Fine. If you don't want to believe me, fine. But go look it up for yourself. I bet you won't, because it requires you to get uncomfortable. It requires you to make changes in your life that is going to require you to invest energy in something you didn't think you was going to have to do because somebody else was doing it for you. I've said this before. I've made a video about it. I've reposted videos about it. The word black did not come around until 1790. Black is a color, okay? Black is the only way they can deem you to be dead at law. And if you go to the dictionaries back then and actually look up the word black, it says pale. Are you pale? Am I pale? We were the original white people, but they don't tell you that. But you haven't learned that. And
okay, well, that part I have read that it was bleak, right? Bleak meaning, you know, like pale or without color. That part is true. That what she's basically saying. But you know, again, she's basing it all on the fact that that there was no transatlantic slave trade, and she's basically denying the transatlantic world order, because before there was the new world order. I'm sorry, yeah, the new world order. There was the transatlantic world order. Okay, so she's basically denying that.
that's okay, but stay open to the idea that you are wrong and that everything that was taught to you in public school so that you can learn to operate in commerce, which is the public, was wrong. They used the U.S. Census to start acknowledging us as black and or African American. If you look at what the definition is for these, when it used to say black, that the definition was that we had no ties to any lands over here. Now African American says we have ties to Africa. That's literally taking away our rights as Aboriginal people, as the original.
Okay, all right. So yeah,
I'm talking to the people who look like
one of the things
me, because I'm
one of the things she harps on is there was no infrastructure to transfer the millions of people over here during the transatlantic slave trade, and that's just garbage, right? And the guy that she's taking most of this from is a dude called Dane Calloway, right? And one of his biggest talking points is just that, right? Let's go. Dane Calloway is that, oh, what about all the ships? What about the ships? There was no ship. Where did all the ships go, right? Where did all the ships go from the slave trade? Well, I'll tell you where all the ships went. There were wooden ships. When they came over here, they dismantled the old ones, or the ones that were, damaged, okay? And they built houses and churches with them. Like, they built whole cities with the wood from the ships that they came over here on. Let me see if I can find some of that, right? Wood from ships build towns, right? What kind of wood was their old ships made of? What kind of wood is using? Okay. I'm trying to get it here. I think this one says, were any towns built that actually use large intact chunks of sailing ship? Popular contribution. There we go. In San Francisco, doing the go. Actually, let me do the slave. Let me say slave ships. Wood from slave ships. Towns. Okay. What force were used to cut down these slave ships to the Americas? They came from Scandinavia. The wood came from Scandinavia, Polish forest, Livonian forest, Norwegian forest. I mean, it's not hard to conceive that. during World War II, I had that post here. During World War II, right? They had to make a whole bunch of ships. Okay, let's see, WW2 destroyers, right? Number. Okay, list of destroyers of World War II. How many destroyers were there? It says here, U.S. Navy was operating 7,601 ships on VJ Day in August 1945, including 28 aircraft carriers, 23 battleships, 71 escort carriers, 72 cruisers, over 232 submarines, 377 destroyers, and thousands of amphibious, supply, and auxiliary ships. Over 7,000. Where'd they get all the steel to make those ships? And those are big ass ships. I mean, you're talking about displacements of several. Look at this. The smaller vessels were less than 1,000 tons. A ton is 2,000 pounds. No, I'm sorry. It's 1,000 pounds. In Europe, let's look at it real quick. There we go. 1,000 pounds or less. How much is a ton? I think a ton is one. Let me just check real quick. A ton is 1,000 pounds. A tonni is a unit force. 1 ton. A long ton is 2,240 pounds. A short ton is 2,000 pounds. The ton, which is the metric ton, which is 1,000 kilograms or 1 megagram. Yeah. So it's 2,000. A ton is 2,000 pounds, right? 1,000 pounds or 1,000 tons is 2 million pounds. That's a big ship. That is a massive ship. And those were the small ones. This is just listing. This is the big ones. It's tons of other small ones that were out there, right? Where did they get the materials to make all of these? And we know that this happened. Another thing I was looking at was, here it is. Where is it? It was a, what's that thing called? The transportation of the military men over there. All right. Men transported to Europe in World War II. All right. How did the U.S. transport millions of troops to Europe and the Pacific during World War II? Almost 7,000 ships participated in D-Day. All right. 7,000 ships, various types. You had the military destroyers. They also they commandeered cruise ships, private ships, etc. And they brought them over here. After the war, how did they get all the millions of people back, right? Check this out. Home Alive by 45. This is called Operation Magic Carpet, right? Okay. Though lasting only 360 days, Operation Magic Carpet was the largest combined air and sea lift ever organized. Okay? Let's look at it. Operation Magic Carpet officially commenced on September 6, 1945, 4 days after VJ Day, ending on September 1st, 1946. Though on some days and months, particularly December 1945, the return rate was much higher. On average, Operation Magic Carpet transported 22,000 Americans home every day for nearly 1 year straight. 22,000, right? For a whole year, 365 days in a year. That is 202 million. That's 6 million people. Let's get the calculator real quick. Oofda. Right? It's something like all right. 222 times 365. All right? That's 8 million people in 1 year. In 1 year, 8 million people they transported. So if they can do that, back then using 7,000 ships, and there were, let's see how many slave ships there were. Let's look that up real quick. Number of slave ships. During all slave trade, right? Let's look that up, right? How many slave ships were there? Okay. There were approximately 35,000 ships that brought 12 million Africans to the Americas. Of those 35,000 ships, approximately 500 to 1,000 wrecked. So far, it's a handful have been found, and of the handful that have been found, even fewer have been properly documented. 35,000 ships. All right. Let's look it up. How big were slave ships? How large were slave ships? Okay. Slave ships range in size from 10-ton Hesketh, which could carry a crew plus 35 captive Africans, to the 566-ton Par, which carried a crew of 100 and could hold a cargo of as many as 700 enslaved peoples. All right, let's see what they got here. Between 1500 and 1866, 12 million were enslaved people were brought here. About 1.8 million died on the trip. Okay, and that doesn't include the Indians, the indigenous people here, the Gadites, the Reubenites, the Issacharites, and everybody that they enslaved once they were over here. All right, because a lot of people seem to have it in their heads that there was no Hispanic, so-called Hispanic slave trade. There was. As a matter of fact, when Columbus came over here, he didn't bring so-called Africans. They didn't bring so-called black people over here on the voyage, right? Even though he did have Jakes on his crew, when he got here, he captured natives here and brought them back to Europe, presented them to get as gifts to Isabella, and they became her favorites. All right. Let's see here. So these were pretty big ships. It says here from 100 tons to 566 tons, carrying like 700 plus people, from 30 people to 700 people. That's a lot of people. All right. And the voyage over here took 2 months. So you're talking about 2 months to come, 2 months to go. So that's like 3 trips every year. And there are 35,000 ships at the peak. Come on, man. Come on. All right. And most of these ships, when they were done, they just basically, when they floundered or when whatever happened to them, they just took the wood and repurposed it. That's all that happened. What about all the planes? Look at all the planes they made in World War II. Where did all those planes go? The majority of them, they recycled the materials. Some are in museums, right? Some they sold to other countries. But you don't see those airplanes anymore, but you can't doubt that they didn't exist in World War II. Come on, man. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this is why, she's there running her mouth and stuff. Because God had deprived her of wisdom, neither hath he imparted to her understanding. Right? And it's not just her. Boom. For grace is not given him from the Lord, because he is deprived of all wisdom. It's this dude Dan Calloway as well. Right? Grace is not given to him. That's why he's deprived of wisdom. He's deprived of wisdom from the Heavenly Father. They just don't understand. It tells us right here, right? Ships. Old Testament. There we go. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. What the hell? For bondmen and bondwomen, right? and no man shall buy you. What does that mean? What does Egypt mean? If we go to Exodus 20, Exodus 20th chapter, first verse, right? And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So Egypt is equivalent to bondage. All right. So basically what it's saying, all it is saying is that, look, 28:68, right? All it is saying is that the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. How do we get into Egypt the first time? The 12 sons, they walked over there. That's how we got there the first time. And we were enslaved when we were over there. All right? Because remember, at first we were welcome because Joseph was in charge over there. All right? And we grew and we multiplied to millions. And then we were enslaved when a new Pharaoh came in or whatnot. And the Lord brought us out of Egypt on foot. So what's this talking about, into Egypt again with ships? Throughout the whole Bible, we never went back into bondage in Egypt. We went in bondage in other places, but not in ships. And definitely not back to Egypt. So what's it talking about? It's clearly talking about the transatlantic slave trade. All right? There you shall see it no more again, and here you shall be sold unto your enemies. Come on, man. Come on, man. You'll be sold unto our enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So people read that and they go, see. Oh, there's confusion. How you gonna buy you if you being sold into bondmen and they say nobody gonna buy you, huh? Well, how you got your freedom when you were in bondage was you had to purchase your freedom. Okay? Now you may say, well, weren't they able to do that? Couldn't they do that back then? You could buy your freedom. Yeah, you could purchase your freedom, but you weren't free. Okay? You were just basically able to exist within the society, except you didn't have chains on you. All right? Because to be free, you have to have your own government. You have to have your own military to protect your interests locally and abroad. Okay? You have to have your own currency. Right? To be free, you have to have your own laws and be able to enforce them. You have to have your own borders. That is what freedom means. When America fought the War of Independence from the British, right? Did they have to? If England were to make a law, did America still have to obey it? So then, if we are free, why do we still have to obey the laws of the descendants of our enslavers? Think about that. Think about that for a second. The descendants of slaves still have to obey the laws of the descendants of our enslavers. How is that freedom? If you don't follow their laws, what happens? You get punished. If you didn't obey them back then, in slavery, what happened? You got punished. You see what I'm saying? Did we have a hand in making these laws? You'd be like, oh, well, we're in government, so of course we have a hand. No, we're outnumbered in government. We're a small group in government, always have been. Okay? We don't have a great hand in making the laws, especially laws that will affect us personally. Remember, Obama was in office. He didn't make no damn laws that affected us personally. All right, so she's completely going off. All right, we came over here via ships. Yes, there were Jakes here as well. There were already Jakes here. Okay, yes, they were darker skinned than they are now. Nobody's disputing that. But there was a slave trade. All right, there was a slave trade. All right, and let's see. Was there anything else? Any questions? All right. So with that, I'm going to say shalom.